Welcome back to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. Before we meet today's guest and hear from our sponsors, I want to give a shout out to our two partners. We partner with the global community of women in high school sports. Jen Brooks' great group that helps promote women at high school level. Their website is Global Community of Women in Sports.org. Check it out. There's a lot of resources. There's a lot of value in becoming a member and supporting the global community of women in high school sports. Our other partner is We Coach. Vanessa Fuchs is the CEO of this tremendous organization. It's focused more on the college level coach and AD, but they're reaching out to help high school people as well. Their website is wecoachsports.org. These two great organizations that help promote athletics, particularly for women coaches and ADs. Check them out, and we are proud to be partners with them. Now, let's hear from our podcast sponsors. We want to thank our friends at Gipper for their support. Go to Gipper.com and see how athletic directors are creating world-class marketing content for their school's social media channels. You can do it in seconds on any device, and you don't need any design experience. It's so easy, even I can do it. Go to Gipper.com, mention the podcast and the podcast code ADPOD10, that's ADPOD10, and get 10% off. That's Gipper.com. Start creating custom branded content for your school's social media channels. Gipper.com. We also want to thank Final Forms, the industry leader in registration. But Final Forms is more than that. Final Forms can help your stakeholders with things like mobile accessibility, and they have reminders for parents about policies, about physicals, and all the forms that come with athletics. Final Forms can also help your coaches with things like attendance and communication, and even with their own certification management. And for athletic directors, Final Forms can help you with eligibility, with rosters, and all the reports that come across your desk. You know, it's time that you talk to a team that's walked in your shoes. To take the next steps and find out what Final Forms can do for you, go to finalforms.com/Jake. That's finalforms.com/Jake to get started with Final Forms. We also want to thank our friends at Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com. They're going to show you how to sell your tickets online and how to scan your attendees that come to the games. They'll also show you how to collect your revenue. And every step of the way, you're going to have a dedicated client success manager that's providing you hands-on support. That's every step of the way. Go to hometownticketing.com. You'll also see how you can start selling tickets for things like school dances and theater productions, music performances, even graduation. That's hometownticketing.com. Simple and easy online ticketing. We also want to say thanks to SnapRaise. Go to snapraise.com and see how better fundraising with their platform can make for a better athletic program. Get away from the fundraising headaches of the past. There's no selling, there's no list managing, there's no inventory. Our coaches use SnapRaise, and it was just fantastic. As an athletic director, I knew what was going on, but I didn't have to get involved. There's no upfront cost. Your data is secure, and what's more important, it works. Okay, go to snapraise.com and check out the SnapRaise fundraising difference and see the thousands and thousands of dollars that they have helped schools just like yours raise using SnapRaise. Grow your program with SnapRaise and change your fundraising game plan. That's snapraise.com. We also want to thank our good friends at Huddle. Huddle is how the world sees sports. Over 200,000 teams across 40 sports use Huddle to help their teams play better using video and analytics. Go to huddle.com and you can check out all the features that they offer, including smart cameras that are auto tracking. There's always been analytics, but there's so much more. There's two tools to help every team, every coach, and every athlete improve. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but as an athletic director, we were a Huddle school, and our coaches just love the professional grade analysis and features that Huddle can provide. Once again, go to huddle.com We believe in sports and teams believe in Huddle, and become one of the 6 million users, including your student athletes, that are on the Huddle team. To learn more about Huddle, go to huddle.com. That's huddle.com. We also want to thank our good friends at Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic program. We use surveys for just about everything at my schools, and the information that came back from the parents, the teachers, even the kids was almost always overwhelmingly positive, and it'll be the same for you. But surveys also allow that squeaky wheel parent to vent, and sometimes they'll share a small problem that you can address and keep it from turning into a big problem because you didn't know about it, because you didn't do a survey. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Go to athleticsurveys.com or email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. Let them help you take your athletic program from good to great, and go to athleticsurveys.com. We also want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive. Their indoor scoring tables and video boards not only generate income for your department, but they also create the ultimate game day experience for your athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com to schedule a live web demo and see their tables and boards in action. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com and see exactly what their fantastic products can do for you. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com, or go to sidelineinteractive.com for more information. And we want to say thanks to Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. You know, they're on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school's school record boards for all your teams, for all the events, or to display your athletic department Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com or email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. They've got a variety of interactive touchscreen video consoles and an entire library of templates to help recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Let them help you showcase your school's diverse history and your proudest moments. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going up to Michigan today, and our guest is Jean LaClair. Jean's got quite a resume. She is currently the athletic director, the head volleyball coach, and the dean of students at Bronson High School in Bronson, Michigan. She's got a tremendous coaching resume. She's a National Coach of the Year. She's in the Michigan Coaches Hall of Fame. She's won multiple state championships, and at the same time, she's an athletic director. So, Jean LaClair, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Well, we're excited to hear about your programs and the things that you do. But first, we always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So, give us that quick bio. Where you were born, where you grew up. Kind of take us up to your college years. Then we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll hear about your career. So, what's the Jean LaClair story in 4 minutes?
My story's fast, I think. I grew up in Grayling, Michigan. That's the home of Bear Archery, which has now moved to Florida, but both my parents worked at Bear Archery. So I grew up competing in the sport of archery until I got into junior high school. And when I got into junior high, I wanted to be in school sports. So archery kind of took the wayside for me. But what archery taught me was the focus and concentration needed in sports. So, I do think I got a lot out of that sport. Before my sophomore year in high school, I moved to Dow High School in Midland, Michigan. And I moved because Grayling Public Schools was talking about getting rid of some sports because of financial reasons. And sports was pretty important to me. So I moved up to my dad's house where I could compete in all the sports I wanted to at Dow High School. And from there, I went to Saginaw Valley State University where I competed in volleyball. And I think people find it pretty funny. My favorite sport's always been basketball, but I've coached and I competed in college in the sport of volleyball. So, I think that that's kind of a fun story. And my athletes can't believe that my favorite sport isn't volleyball. And I got my start in coaching volleyball at the high school level while I was still in college. So that's kind of a quick rundown of where I grew up and how I got into sports.
I want to go back and have you talk a little bit about the archery. I think I think many of us were PE teachers during the day, and we had that archery unit sometimes. What are some of the memories of training and competing in that particular sport?
Well, I grew up at the archery club. My dad was a professional archer, so every weekend we were at archery tournaments. So I just grew up competing in the sport of archery, and I don't know. I just think I learned how to really focus, because in archery you have to focus your sight on the target, and you can't worry about anything that's happening around you, or you're going to miss the target entirely. So yeah, I did enjoy archery. The funny thing was I took an archery class in college and I got a B in it because I wanted to do things my way, not how the instructor wanted it done. And I had grown up competing and I was pretty good. So, but I got a B in college in my archery class.
So just drawing back and hitting the bullseye, 7 out of 10 times or whatever it was, maybe it was better than that. That wasn't good enough for your college instructor?
I don't think so. He wanted me to, he wanted me to load my bow differently. When you're competing at tournaments, you have like a 3-foot space. And he wanted me to turn my bow so that it was horizontal to load my arrow. And I'm like, no, you can't do that when you're actually competing, because there's not the space on the line, because there might be 50 people in this little area. So yeah, that was one of the things he didn't like. I didn't load the bow how he wanted me to load it.
Wow, that's crazy. I love it. For our listeners, our guest today is Jean LaClair. She's an athletic director, a head volleyball coach, also a dean of students at Bronson High School in Bronson, Michigan. We're going to hear some more about her career, so please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank Gipper for their support of the podcast. Go to Gipper.com and see how athletic directors are creating world-class marketing content for their school's social media channels. You can do it in seconds on any device, and you don't need any design experience. It's so easy, even I can do it. Go to Gipper.com, use the podcast code ADPOD10, that's ADPOD10, and get 10% off. Start creating custom branded content for your school's social media channels at Gipper.com. Go ahead.
Hey, Jake, I do use Gipper. That's one of my favorite social media tools. And for any athletic director who is not utilizing it, seriously take a look at it, because it's a great program. I use it from my phone from every event I'm at, just sharing scores and results and everything else.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And I know the folks at Gipper do too. I didn't really get into Gipper until after I retired, and they got involved with us in the podcast. But you're absolutely right. It's a tremendous tool to help promote your teams, your coaches, and your kids. So thanks for that extra shout out.
Well,
You in the previous segment, you kind of took us up to your college years. So share a little bit about, your early career, the coaching, and maybe that decision process to, as I like to say, coming to the other side of the desk, becoming an athletic director. Share that part of your life.
sure. So while I was in college, I started coaching. I started coaching at a pretty young age. I think I was a head coach probably at the age of 19, which is pretty young. Learned a lot of valuable lessons and things you shouldn't do at that age, because you just don't know any better. But right after graduation, I got hired in to teach math at Pinconning High School, which is in northern Michigan. And I worked alongside the athletic director there, who also was a volleyball coach. So I started doing some game management with him. and working alongside him. And it really showed me that I enjoyed the organization and the running of an athletic department. So that helped my decision to get a master's in sport administration from Central Michigan University. And he left, he was the athletic director and volleyball coach at Pinconning. And after 3 years, he left to coach in college. So I just kind of stepped right into his position of taking over the athletic director role. And kind of the rest is history. I left Pinconning to go to Bronson only because I was looking for a full-time AD job. At the time, I was teaching 3 hours and an AD, and I went to Bronson as a full-time AD. Now, about 12 years into my stint here, I also became the dean of students, and that's kind of held on. But I've got great administrators to work with, so I'm not necessarily working a 12 to 14-hour day every day like some athletic director / dean of students are forced to do.
Yeah, you and I were talking a little bit. I was a football track coach, and most of my career has been football coach and athletic director. But there was a period where I stepped away from being an AD, and I was the head football coach and the dean of students. Really enjoyed that aspect. You get a chance to work with kids and with parents that you don't often get to see. But as my career progressed, I was approached by another school to just become their athletic director. And I realized I liked being a dean, but I loved being an athletic director. So I went to the other school. Any dean of students stories that you can share with our listeners right now about that aspect of your career?
I don't know if I have great stories, but I think what I like about being the dean / athletic director is I can really work with the athletes when they're making poor decisions, and I'm meeting with them as a dean about how that looks and how they need to be the leader in our school because they're an athlete and everybody looks up to them. So that gives me the opportunity during the school day just to talk with them about making better choices and being leaders.
Oh yeah, and again, that's a big part of the leadership role that we take. We're coaching coaches. Sometimes we're coaching kids like you are too as a volleyball coach. But in that when you got that dean hat on, okay, you really get a chance to connect with kids, and probably really helps the AD experience as well. Let's go and you mentioned something about you've got some great administrative support. Share with our listeners how that has helped you, be a better coach, be a better AD.
Not only administrative support, but just mentors. So, I've got a superintendent who's really into athletics. I think all of my superintendents, I've had several have been into athletics. And so that's fun because they want to talk athletics and they get it. They get how important athletics is to a school system. So I think that's exciting. But just part of the mentors, my superintendents are my great mentors, and I still, even those who have left the district, I still am in contact and asking questions of.
Great lead in. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to let you share some of those mentors and how they've impacted your career. Once again, for our listeners, our guest today is Jean LaClair. She's the athletic director, the head volleyball coach, and the dean of students at Bronson High School in Bronson, Michigan. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to say thanks to Final Forms, the industry leader in forms and registration, but there's so much more than that. Final Forms can help your stakeholders with things like mobile accessibility. They've got reminders for parents about policies, about physicals, and all the forms that come when you have an athlete in the house. Final Forms can also help your coaches with things like communication and attendance, and even help with their own certification management. And for athletic directors, Final Forms can help with eligibility, with rosters, and all the reports that come across your desk. And with Final Forms, your data is secure. It's time for you to talk to a team that's walked in your shoes. To take the next steps and find out what Final Forms can do for you, go to finalforms.com/Jake. That's finalforms.com/Jake to get started with Final Forms. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Jean, in the previous segment, you alluded to some of the mentors that you've had, and we always like to give our guests the opportunity to give them a shout out. None of us get to where we're at on our own. The expression that I always use is, I still hear those voices in my head. So do you have any voices that you still hear?
Oh, absolutely. And there's no way I could list all of the mentors that I have and that I still talk to. But probably first and foremost is my high school basketball coach. And I didn't even realize it at the time. But after I got down here to Bronson, I thought, man, he did things the right way. He made difficult decisions and he handled them with class. And I didn't really realize that until I was 5 or 10 years into my athletic director position, but he taught me how I wanted to lead my athletic program. So that was Mr. Bob Ribble. And I'm still in contact with him on Facebook. That's one of the great things about social media. It's easy to keep some of those people involved in your lives. But then there's lots of ADs from across Michigan and the country. Betty Rubel from Notre Dame Prep is just a great friend, and she and I talk a lot. She's also a great volleyball coach and softball coach. Some previous ones, Steve Henniger and Dick Look, were ADs up north when I first became an AD, and they're the ones who really got me into the MIAAA, our Michigan High School Coaches, Michigan High School Athletic Administrators Association, and I became instantly active in the association. Matt Lehman is in my current league, and he and I talk a lot about just different issues. And then I also got involved somehow. I get myself involved in a lot, but with the National High School Athletic Coaches Association. So I'm on their board, and that's gotten me traveling to several conferences in the summer. And I've just gotten to know a lot more athletic directors and volleyball coaches from across the country. So, just the people, you have something going on, you can just shoot out a quick email or a text and get some help from them, in all sports, in all jobs. So I think you really got to be willing to talk with people and learn and sit down at a table at the conferences you go to, and just some of the discussion that goes on, you learn so much from.
No, absolutely. And again, you bring up a great point about, that mentoring can be the springboard, and very often is, to establishing your own network of, resources and, acquaintances that can really help you out down the road. Really appreciate you sharing. I know those mentors appreciate you giving them the shout out too. For our listeners, our guest today is Jean LaClair. She's the athletic director, the head volleyball coach, and the dean of students, and a national coach of the year from Bronson High School in Bronson, Michigan. We're going to take another break. I know our listeners are shocked at that, but we want to give our sponsors a shout out. Please stay with us. We'll be back with some more. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com. and they will show you how to sell your tickets online digitally for your athletic events. They'll show you how to scan the attendees, the people that come, and they'll show you how to collect your revenue. That's certainly important. And every step of the way, you're going to have a dedicated client success manager that's providing hands-on support. Go to hometownticketing.com. They'll also show you how to sell digital tickets for things like school dances and theater performances, music concerts, even graduation. Go to hometownticketing.com and start selling your tickets digitally. That's hometownticketing.com. We also want to thank our good friends at Huddle. Huddle is how the world sees sports. Go to huddle.com and see how over 200,000 teams across 40 sports are using Huddle to help their athletes and their teams perform better using video and analytics. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but as an athletic director, we were a Huddle school, and our coaches just loved the smart cameras, the programmability. Obviously, they love the analytics, but there's so much more. Huddle has the tools to help every team, every coach, and every athlete get better. Go to huddle.com and you'll find a complete solution with professional grade quality for their cameras, their software, and their customer support. Huddle believes in sports, and teams believe in huddle. Go to huddle.com, find out how your program and your school can become a huddle school. Go to huddle.com to learn more. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest is Jean LaClair from Bronson High School in Bronson, Michigan. Jean, you and I have been doing this for a long time, and we have a lot of younger athletic directors that listen to the podcast. And I think it's important for them to hear our journey from a professional level. And you mentioned, you got involved with MIAAA. So talk a little bit about that. How did that occur? And, what were some of the things that, you did as you grew on your professional pathway?
I got it. The first way I became involved with the MIAAA was just attending their conference, and some other AD friends said, hey, you got to go to the conference. It's a great weekend away. There's a lot of learning and socializing that goes on. So, I did that first, and then I'm always active. I always get myself involved in things. So I got myself on a couple committees, which turned into a PR committee. And now anytime I know any new AD, I'm saying, hey, I'm a committee chairman. You're going to be on my committee, so I try and push them to get involved that way. I think it's important. And then Betty Rubel from Notre Dame Prep is really the one who got me involved in the NIAAA, which is the National Association. And I've gone to their conference a couple of years, and now I'm on one of their committees. So I think what better way to learn than to get yourself involved with committees and taking the classes that are associated from the NIAAA. So I don't know if I've taken every class, but I've taken almost every class that's available. And I think when I go to the national convention each year, that's what I'm looking for, what new classes are being taught so that I can continue to learn and improve.
Well, if you're in Nashville this year, hopefully you'll sign up for the parenting class, 716, which I was part of the authorship team for. We'll be presenting that again. And again, you hit on so many different points there. Just choosing to go to your state conference, when you were asked to be on a committee, you said, yeah, I'll be on a committee. And those are those key steps for a young AD that wants to get involved. You got to go to the conference, and sometimes you actually have to volunteer. Introduce yourself to one of the workshop moderators or one of the LTI instructors and just say, hey, I'd like to get involved. How do I do it? And they will very willingly, tell you exactly how to do that. Great stuff. We're going to do this at the end of the podcast, but if one of our listeners wants to reach out and pick your brain, find out a little bit more about how you do things at Bronson, what's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
They can either text or email me. My email address, do you want me to give that to you?
Absolutely.
Okay, it's my last name, Leclair, LACLAIRJ, at Bronson Schools with an S at the end, plural.org. And that's an easy way, or my cell phone number, 269-506-1919. I don't always take a call if I don't recognize the number. So you can leave a message or text me, and then I would get back with somebody.
Yeah, for listeners, text her and say, hey, this is so-and-so. I heard you on the podcast and wanted to chat, give her a heads up about what that's all about. Once again, our guest is Jean LaClair, athletic director, Hall of Fame coach, and dean of students volleyball coach at Bronson High School. We're going to take another break, but we'll be back. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to say thanks to Snap Raise. Go to snapraise.com and see how their fundraising platform can help you. Our coaches use Snap Raise, and it was just fantastic. As an athletic director, I knew what was going on, but I didn't have to be involved. And you can get away from the fundraising headaches of the past. There's no selling, there's no list management, there's no inventory. And what's more important, it works. Go to snapraise.com and check out the thousands and thousands of dollars that they have helped schools just like yours raise using Snap Raise. Again, our coaches use Snap Raise, and it was very, very effective. Grow your program with Snap Raise and change your fundraising game plan. Start a fundraiser that works for you. Go to snapraise.com to get started. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest is Jean LaClair. She's the athletic director and the head volleyball coach at Bronson High School in Bronson, Michigan. Also a National Coach of the Year. She's a member of the Michigan Coaches Hall of Fame. Just a tremendous resource. And Jean, one of the things we try to do with our podcast is this idea of sharing best practices. So what are some of the things that you do at your school with your teams, even as a head coach, that you feel are best practices you can share with our listeners?
I think probably the biggest thing is embrace the parents. And, I think a lot of coaches and ADs don't want anything to do with the parents, but I think we have to embrace them. We want them to be part of our team and part of our family. And I think they're an important piece of the puzzle. So my first would be embrace the parents. Along with that, observe and listen to athletes, to spectators, to coaches, to parents. Listen to the things they're saying, because they might give you some good things or bad things that you need to be looking into, maybe celebrating the good things that are going on, but observe and listen. I think probably my key for me is organization. I'm just anally organized. And I think that's critical as an athletic director, because there's so many things that go on and you have so many buses going different directions. So just the organization, making sure everybody's on the same page. And probably lastly right now is getting kids into leadership and captains clinics, because we need to teach our kids how to be great leaders, how to lead their team in the community in the future. It's kind of gone by the wayside the past couple of years because of COVID. I'm super happy that we can start sending kids out to some captain clinics or leadership conferences again, and just working with them and how they can lead their teams and helping them make decisions that's going to help their teams and their schools and ultimately the communities as they grow older.
Those are really cool ideas. I love every single one of them. I'm going to put you on the spot. Recent conversation about captains, and there's a lot of different ways to coach. There's a lot of different ways to run a program. Some coaches, they have, 3 captains every year. Some it's only senior captains. Some don't do captains at all. But you talked about developing leadership, captains clinics. What are some specific things, maybe 1 or 2, that you've done either as an AD or as a very successful head coach to help develop leadership with your student athletes or with your coaches? Anything you can share with us?
Sure. A couple things with my volleyball program is we do book studies, and I don't call them captains, I call them leaders. And I want leaders of different age brackets. So I'm not going to do just seniors. So we've done a couple books by Jamie Beckler in book studies. So they read a chapter or whatever, and then we discuss it maybe once a week. So book studies is a great thing to do. There's an app that I'm doing with my team. I've done it a couple years, brought it back. It's a student athlete program. It develops character development and leadership. And it's an app, so it's on their phone, and it takes like 2 minutes a day, Monday through Friday, and they have to answer a question or 2 after it, and we discuss those every day before practice. So those are a couple things. We do that with our entire team, volleyball team, not just the leaders. So that's a couple things that I've done as a coach. Is that the energy bus? Is that what that one is you have right there?
I was going to say, I've got my 3 Jamie Beckler books here, the Buzz Trip, Leadership Playbook, and the Captain. So I'm right there with you on Jamie Beckler.
We're doing the Captain right now. And that's an easy one to read a chapter a day, because the chapters are pretty short. So we read a chapter a day of that. As an athletic director, our Michigan High School Athletic Association puts on a Women in Sport Leadership Conference every other year. So we take 8 girls to that, and our conference does 2 leadership council or 2 leadership programs every year. And we take a total of 20 kids to those each year. So those are some things that we're doing as a school district. Also, there's a new one, the MASSP this year is doing with a girls leadership thing too, that I'm hoping we'll be able to send some girls to that as well. So just
Um,
trying to get our kids out there.
I'm going to guess you're familiar with Meg Sang.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yep.
yeah, she has her leadership program. Been on the podcast.
Yep.
She and I were both on the National Certification Committee. I'm going to give you and our listeners one more book suggestion. This one's called Teammates Matter. The author's Alan Williams. We did this, gosh, it was about maybe 10 years ago. It's a great, great story. We actually were so impressed. That we flew him down to our school. We had him present to our parents Thursday night, and then he presented to our entire student body the next day.
That's awesome.
Great, great book. Highly recommended.
What was his name again?
His name is Alan Williams.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Teammates Matter. Okay. Our guest today is Jean LaClair. She's a athletic director. She's a Hall of Fame National Coach of the Year, and she's at Bronson High School in Bronson, Michigan. We're going to take another break, but we'll be back. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to say thanks to our good friends at Vital Signs Wall of Fame. They've got a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school's athletic record boards or your school's Hall of Fame, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. They've got a variety of interactive touchscreen video consoles, along with an extensive library of templates to help recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. Let them help you showcase your school's diverse history and your proudest moments. And go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Or you can email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com to get started. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Once again, our guest is Jean LaClair from Bronson High School in Bronson, Michigan. Coach, one of our original questions that we've been asking since the podcast started has to do with this idea of developing toughness. 100 years ago, when I was in high school, our coaches would say things like, come on, Jake, you got to suck it up, or come on, Jake, you got to be tough. And we kind of knew what they meant, and we did it. Since then, we have found much better ways to communicate with kids and help coach them. But I still feel that toughness is an important quality for sports and for life. So here's my question. How can we help kids to develop toughness while also being sensitive to the very real challenges that a Generation Z kid is experiencing that I never had to go through? Do you have any advice for us?
I think so. And I agree. We can't coach how we were coached when we were in school. I mean, that has gone by the wayside. But I think there's a lot to it. So how can we help kids be tough? I think first we have to get the parents to understand that the kids need to learn how to fight their own battles a little bit. I mean, the parent shouldn't just be paving the way for them. They need to let the kid come in and talk to the coach face to face. That's something I really push, especially in my volleyball program. If they're having issues, then they need to, maybe they shoot me a text and say, hey, can we meet before practice, or can I come in during lunch? But sit down and talk face to face. And that's something that kids have difficulty doing these days because of technology. So I think those are 2 critical ways. And then I also think we need to listen to them and help them find ways to deal with whatever they're going through. And kids have a lot on their plate these days. So it's tough, and their life is tough. Sometimes school is tough. You have to hear what they're struggling with and then help talk them through how they can deal with it. But I think the biggest one is kids have to be able to talk to anyone else, but especially a coach or an adult face to face. And parents need to let them learn how to talk and work their way through it.
Those would be considered, some best practices, coaching parents to let their kids talk, coaching the kids on, going to your coach. Do you have any, I guess for lack of a better word, how do you handle that as a head volleyball coach and as an AD with coaching that aspect for parents and coaching the kids to do that? Because you've been doing this for a long time. you know that phone call or that email or even that meeting you in the hall, hey Jean, do you got a minute? It's never a minute. Okay.
Right.
And it's not about playing time, it's always about playing time. Do you have any way that you handle that in your program?
I won't talk to a parent as both a coach or an AD without the kid there. And then I really don't let the parent talk. I talk to the kid to ask them what's going on. So I'll allow the parent to be in the room. And some parents are like, no, I don't want the coach to know. And I'm like, the coach is gonna know, so yes, you can come in and talk to me and the coach, but the kid's gonna be there and the kid's gonna be the one who's gonna be doing the talking.
Mhm.
And that is, I mean, that's helping the kid with real life skills as well.
Mm. Oh, no, absolutely. And for our listeners, this is a National Coach of the Year. This is a Hall of Fame coach and an AD and a dean of students that's sharing what is considered a best practice. And sometimes it's hard to do. It's sometimes hard to have those conversations with everybody in the room, but it's a best practice. If it was easy, anybody would be an athletic director or a head coach. So some great advice from our guest today, Jean LaClair. We're going to take another quick break, but we'll be back. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank Sideline Interactive for their support of the podcast. Their indoor scoring tables and video boards not only generate income for your department, but they also create the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and set up a live web demonstration to see their tables and boards in action. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com and see exactly what their fantastic products can do for you. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com. You won't be disappointed. Once again, welcome back to the Educational AD Podcast. Our guest is Jean LaClair, the athletic director and head volleyball coach, also the dean of students at Bronson High School in Bronson, Michigan. Jean, another one of our longtime talking points has to do with this idea of social awareness. And I know that's a big umbrella, but how can an athletic director do a better job of being socially aware for their community?
Yeah, this is a big one, and this could go many ways. I think the way in Bronson that I have kind of enveloped being socially aware is trying to get myself and my staff to understand that kids are going through a lot these days. And so we have to have an understanding of the reasons, the motivating factors behind their emotions, their thoughts, and their behaviors. So I think kids need to feel safe. I always tell them to make the gym or the field your safe place. If I have a kid come into volleyball practice and I say, hey, how was your day? And they say, I had a rough day. And I say, okay, let's make this your happy place. Let's make this your safe place. And let's change your day around. But you really have to figure out why they're feeling the way they're doing, why they feel that way. Did they have a bad test? Did they break up with their boyfriend? Whatever. You have to figure out, what's going on in their life and spend time with them, talk with them, get to know them, build the relationships. I think, I don't know, I just feel like people are afraid to get to know student athletes. And I think we need to embrace knowing them. I think my players know that I'm a safe person for them to talk to. They can come into me anytime, day or night. They know I'm available. I'll answer my phone if any of them calls me because they need to talk. So I think that's part of it, is just understanding their reasons why they are feeling the way they're feeling. So that's one part. I also think we need to be where the kids are. So I think we need to be on social media. And I stated earlier, I use Gipper, and I have an athletic TikTok page. I can't figure out the password right now. I'm working on that. But, I'm putting videos of our kids competing, and sometimes it might be just a slideshow of pictures, but the media, or not the media, the public, the parents, the kids, they love it. I post game day stuff, weekly schedules, scores, results. And if I forget to post like a weekly schedule, I hear about it because the parents use that every week. I mean, I got a text while I've been on this podcast. Hey, doesn't junior high football play Wednesday? You didn't have that on your weekly schedule. And yep, I missed it. So I think we also have to be where they are in social media. And I know a lot of ADs don't want to be on social media, but I feel we need to be where the kids are. So that's kind of my thoughts on being socially aware.
No, again, you're absolutely right that, that's where the kids are. And, if we want to promote our programs, our teams, our student athletes, even our coaches, you got to be on social media. There's just no other way to do it. And if you're not, people, whether it's from your school or other schools, the community, they're going to be talking about the program. And, having that presence on, Twitter or Facebook or TikTok, whatever it is, Instagram, okay, it's a great way to take control of the narrative and share, as you know, all the great things that our kids, our teams, and our coaches are doing. So, absolutely great stuff.
And Gipper makes that easy because it posts on all three at the same time. It just doesn't post on TikTok. That's got to be a separate one.
All right. I haven't made the venture into TikTok, but one of our great ADs in Florida, I'm sure there's more, Pam Lancaster, she is a TikTok guru, and, she has done a tremendous job promoting her kids and her teams and her coaches on TikTok. If you're looking for different examples, there's one that you can check out on how you can become more active. So thanks for sharing that. And again, I'm beating this drum for Jean LaClair. This is an AD. This is a head volleyball coach, but this is a national coach of the year, a Hall of Fame coach, somebody that I think, has some great advice for those that are willing to listen. Jean, this has been great, spending some time with you, get to know you a little bit, but we're not done yet. We always wrap up with the athletic director's toolbox. You've been doing this for a while. You certainly know your way around the world of athletics. We're going to take a quick break and hear from Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack, who sponsor our toolbox segment. But when we come back, I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job, but I'm only going to let you put 3 things in their toolbox. Come back and listen to what Jean LaClair is going to put in her athletic director toolbox. We'll be right back. We want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack for sponsoring the Athletic Director Toolbox segment of the podcast. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic program. We use surveys at my schools for just about everything, for teachers, for coaches, for parents, and for student athletes. And the information that came back was almost always over the top positive, and it'll be the same for you too. But the surveys also allowed that squeaky wheel parent to vent sometimes, and frequently they'd share a small problem that you could address and keep it from turning into a big problem because you didn't know about it, because you hadn't done a survey. Go to athleticsurveys.com or email them at info@athleticsurveys.com and find out exactly what Athletic Surveys from Lifetrack can do for you. athleticsurveys.com. Let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We've been visiting with Jean LaClair, the athletic director at Bronson High School in Bronson, Michigan. Jean, as I have said, is a Hall of Fame coach, a national coach of the year, very well versed in best practices for athletic directors and coaches. But right now, I'm going to ask her to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job, but I'm only going to let her put 3 things in the toolbox. Jean, what 3 items are going to go into your athletic director toolbox?
There could be a ton here, but first, I've already mentioned it, but I'm going to say embrace the parents. Get them involved in any way you can in your programs. I think that's important. Make them feel part of the team / family. Love the kids. Let them know how much you care. Talk to them about their practices, about their games, about school. So just really love the kids, and they love talking to you about their games. Or we did this great new drill at practice last night. Just learn to love the kids. I think Google Docs, I know all young people, that's easy, but for me, it was hard to learn Google Docs. But, I met this summer in Iowa a great volleyball coach, Renee from Nebraska, and she and I share our practice plans in Google Docs. I can see what she's doing. She can see what I'm doing. We're getting new stuff from one another. So what a great way just to be able to share with other ADs or coaches on Google Docs. And I'm just going to add in attend conferences, attend your state conference, attend the national conference. The people you meet and the things you learn, not only by attending the sessions, but by sitting around a table, eating dinner, just talking about some of the great things you're doing in your school or your state, helps other people out.
Oh, absolutely right. Those conversations that you have, those informal ones, the
Yeah.
courses are great. The LTI courses, the workshops, they're fantastic. But sometimes those informal conversations that you have over a meal or in a bar, or wherever it is, you get a great idea. That's exactly where I got my idea for my certified master athletic administrator project to do, was at an informal conference with a couple other athletic directors. Very cool stuff. Jean, if one of our listeners wants to reach out and pick your brain a little bit, and I certainly encourage you to do so, listeners, what's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
Through email or my cell phone. So my email is my last name, LACLAIRJ at bronsonschools.org. You can just search our school website and you could access it that way. Or my cell phone, 269-506-1919.
Jean LaClair, athletic director, head volleyball coach, and dean of students at Bronson High School. Thanks so much for spending time with us today, and all the best moving forward with your season and the school.
Thanks for having me. And I hope to get back on the kayak soon. I'll start listening to more podcasts.
There you go. Jean was sharing at the start that she usually listens to our episodes on the kayak. That's a first. I've heard lawnmowers. I've heard driving to or from work. The first kayak listener. So that's cool. For all of our listeners, remember the Zoom recordings of these interviews get uploaded to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We appreciate you listening today. Come back just about every day for new content on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. Thanks again for listening. As I said, we want to recognize our partners, We Coach, and the global community of women in high school sports. Really should get involved with both of these great organizations. For We Coach, their website is wecoachsports.org. Check out all the resources available to you as an athletic director or as a coach. And for the global community, go to globalcommunityofwomeninsports.org. Become a member, help support both of these great organizations. We'll see you next time on the Educational AD Podcast.